So, Ajahn, can you share with us as to when does one make merit when one decides to offer the food?
The other day, it's not offering food, but the other day we had this a BMW, brand new BMW, drive into the monastery, and there's a young, handsome young man and a very good-looking young lady get out. You know, they sort of look about 20 years old, very nicely dressed, and they carried this plastic bag to the hall. And I was sitting in the hall by myself, and they bowed down very gracefully, and they said to me, "We'd like to make an offering of this cleaning material." And I said, "Well, that's very good of you, and very practical." But then they said, "But after we offer the cleaning material, we'd like to take it back and ask permission to clean the toilets of the monastery. We'd like to, the man would like to clean the men's toilets, and the lady would like to clean the women's toilets of the monastery." And I said, "Could you repeat that, please?" Because in the 36 years I've been a monk, I've never heard anyone say those words, that they've come to the monastery to clean the toilets. And if you say that again, I'm going to say sadhu so loud it's going to be heard in the Brahmalokas. And I said that obviously you have been trained with a good teacher to teach you what really is meritorious. You know, you're offering to undertake the sort of merit that nobody usually wants to do. And the lady said yes, her teacher was Ajahn Chah, who was a teacher of Luang Pu Fan, one of Ajahn Mun's famous teachers, disciples. And the gentleman had trained at Wat Nanachat and had learned how to clean the bathrooms there, and they would go around to various monasteries. I'm a bit suspicious though of devas in disguise, because I haven't seen them ever come back again, and I'm really hoping they will. But you know, that was just so unusual. Someone, obviously, you know, they were wealthy, they're young, they're kind of modern, educated, but they understood what kind of generosity was about. And that's a very unusual combination. And they were willing to express it, you know, not wanting anyone to really know. I was the only one that was there, and they just offering this and said, asking for permission. They didn't have to have a whole group of friends come and join them, but they wanted to know whether they could, you know, do something which was really, like Ajahn Chah says, you don't clean the toilets for other people, you clean them to remove your defilements. And so they really understood that this act of dāna was for the purpose of removing defilements. So the Buddha actually said that there's 5 faculties for or 5 qualities which leads to the more purity of the generosity of merit. And the first is that purity of intention. So some people will want to make merit because they want to be, they do an act of generosity because they want to be recognised. They want to put their name in the hospital and have their name recognised as they've done this act of generosity. Some people do it for tax purposes, because they want to reduce their tax. Some people, do it because they realise, yes, this is a noble and good thing. Other people, and this is where the Buddha praised, other people do acts of generosity because it ennobles the mind. It makes the mind overcome a sense of greed, concern for oneself, and lifts up the mind and shares what one has with others and makes that mind noble. It is a cause for inclining towards liberation. That intention is the highest intention, where one does it because it's leading to the pathway of liberation. So, obviously there's great degrees, but as the degree gets more refined in your intention, then the more merit one makes. The next thing is that the actual gift is pure. And some people, like there was one time someone came to Ajahn Chah and they wanted to give him a car. And in those days, it was very rare that most, even lay people, had cars. This was 35, 36 years ago. And it was a Citron car, a very imported French car, very unusual. And Ajahn Chah refused to accept it. And the man he said, I don't need a car, it's not, the Buddha didn't use a car, it's not necessary. And the man got more and more frustrated, and in the end he said, look, you have to accept this car. It was imported illegally and I didn't pay the import tax. And it's going to be confiscated, and so I want to leave it in the monastery to keep it away from the customs department. So even more reason to not accept the car. But the intention came very clear why he wanted to offer the car. So you have these degrees, but then some person having an object which is pure, which is obtained in a pure way through one's own work, through right livelihood. So if something is obtained, for example, say through selling drugs and intoxicants, selling animals, selling poisons, human trafficking, animal trafficking, sales of weapons, those sort of things are considered wrong livelihood. That even though you go out and buy something, say someone's sold drugs, and then they've gone out and bought something very valuable and offered that to a charity or an organisation, that gift is impure because of the manner that it's obtained by. Someone goes gambling and then comes and brings some of that money and offers it to a charity or an organisation. So too, even though they've made some merit, the purity of the merit is diminished by the means of how that was obtained, because it's brought about through the suffering of others who have lost their money on the Buddha praised the purity of the gift if the gift is obtained through one's hard work, one's general sacrifice, which doesn't cause pain to oneself and pain to others, which is based in the precepts, which is based in right livelihood. Then that gift that is offered becomes purer because of the pureness of how it's obtained. And then it becomes, the generosity is increased and the merit is increased because of the quality of the giver. If the giver is pure in the 5 precepts, then that gift becomes even purer. It creates more merit than if one breaks one of the 5 precepts. So if someone goes out and catches a fish and thinks, well, I'll give the head to the, make it into a soup and give it to the monks for their meal, because you've broken the precepts in obtaining that fish. And if the monks are suspicious you've obtained it for them, then they can't take that at all. They shouldn't. That's against their rules. So, one actually, if one has a pure precepts, and that's why, for example, if someone giving the 8 precepts, or someone, a monk giving to another monk, or even a fully enlightened being giving to another fully enlightened being, that is the purest gift, because the fully enlightened being is not giving out of need or desire, and the fully enlightened being is receiving it not out of greed or desire. So that's why it will be very pure. So the giver being pure in virtue, and then the receiver, the more pure the receiver, then that gift is purified by the receiver as well. So if one gives to a Samma Buddha, then it's a very, very, very pure gift. That's why the Buddha said that if one was to give food to, say, an animal 100 times, it's the amount of merit obtained is not the same as giving to a human being once. And it's not saying not to, give to animals. He says to the monks, even the rice in the bottom of your bowl, every time you wash that bowl out, you should think, may this grains of rice feed all beings. That is great merit, he said. So, it is meritorious, but because a human being is on a higher level, a higher birth, then giving to a human being is greater merit. If you give to a human being who keeps to the 5 precepts, if you give to an ordinary being 100 times who doesn't keep any precepts, if you give to a human being who keeps the 5 precepts, then that is more meritorious. If one gives to a human being who keeps the 8 precepts, then that is more meritorious. The Buddha said that if one gives to a sotapanna, a stream enterer, he said that is incalculable merit. You cannot measure the amount of merit that's made. Because that person is pure in terms of their sila, and they've cut off the 3 fetters. So the 3 basic fetters that bind people to the world in at least 7 lifetimes have become fully enlightened. If one gives to a Sagatakami, that is even higher merit than giving to a Sotapanna. Immeasurable, incalculable merit, the Buddha said. If one gives to an Anagami, that is immeasurable, incalculable merit, higher than giving to a Sagatakami. That's a non-returner. If one gives to a fully enlightened Arahant, that is immeasurable, incalculable merit, much greater than giving to an Anagami. If one gives to a Pratyeka Buddha, a non-teaching Buddha, someone who's become fully enlightened by themselves but doesn't teach, a silent Buddha as we call them, that is even more meritorious, incalculable, immeasurable merit. If one gives to a Samma Buddha, then that is incalculable, immeasurable merit. But then the Buddha in this discourse, it was to his mother, his stepmother, Mahapajapati, it's in the Majjhima Nikaya, you can read it. He says that if you give to a Samma Buddha, even that is incalculable, immeasurable merit, it is more merit to give to a full Sangha with the Buddha at the head. So if you make an offering to the Sangha, then that includes when you offer to all the Sangha, you make a statement of Sangha dāna, I offer this to all the Sangha, then your intention is totally broad. It's to all the Sangha, both here and now, past and the future, and the present, to come and have come. For example, if this centre here this morning, Kun Sieng and his family said they'd like to offer the use of this centre here at Cittarama for another 5 years for the benefit of the Sangha, not for the benefit of Ajahn Nyanadhammo, Ajahn Chandi, or Ajahn Somsak. Is for the Sangha. That is immeasurable merit because it's not just defining. And before Sieng Ma just actually knew me, and the initial intention was, say for the Sangha's use. But actually over the years, the number of Sangha, the number of monks and special monks which he didn't know at that time, who have come here and taught here, has been kind of immeasurable, the incalculable merit because of the qualities of those beings. So that intention, when it's really broad, almost allows good karma to arise, because you have this not a focused intention but a very broad intention of your gift. And so that becomes incalculable merit because of the purity of, and also it includes all types of bhikkhus, from the unenlightened up to the fully enlightened Samma Buddha. So it is. That's why it's incalculable merit. And then the last faculty which leads to the purity of the generosity is not having regrets after having made that, done the act of giving. Yes, yes. It's very interesting. There was at the time of the Buddha, there was a very wealthy man in the city of Savatthi, and he was incredibly wealthy, but he was incredibly stingy. And he wouldn't spend any of his money. He just kept it in, he would buy the poorest food. He lived in a rundown little place, and he wouldn't allow his wife to spend anything, and lived quite a miserable life. But everyone knew he was incredibly wealthy. He owned huge areas of land, and made so much money in selling his crops and things. And one day the monks went on alms round, and all the villagers in the market were gossiping. They were talking about this particular man, and why is he living such a miserable life? He's got so much money, but he doesn't seem to get any happiness out of his wealth, neither him or his family. And so the monks heard this, and they came back and they asked the Buddha. The people were talking about this man, why? And the Buddha, because of his psychic powers to recall past lives, he said, yes, that man has immense wealth because in a previous life he had offered dāna to a Pratyeka Buddha, had come on alms round. And his wife had made these sweets, and he normally was not very generous, but that time he was so overcome by the deportment and the demeanour of that Pratyeka Buddha that he got inspired, and he offered this tray of sweets and put them into his bowl. And when he put them into the bowl and the monk left, he started to think, why did I do that? I mean, I've given them all away, these delicious sweets. What an idiot, what a fool. And he regretted that gift forevermore. And because of the regret, the non-rejoicing in it, he made immense amount of merit. So that's why he has all that wealth. But he hasn't got the ability to enjoy that wealth as a result of not being happy in the act of kindness and the act of generosity that he's done. So that's interesting, isn't it? Some people do, they do very good things in their life, and then sometimes they actually suffer because they actually wish they hadn't have done that thing. Or someone says, oh, why did you give that away? Or why did you do that? That's very bad karma. That's why we try to do the opposite as a Buddhist, is say sadhu, sadhu. I rejoice in your act of generosity. I rejoice in your act of kindness. We're rejoicing in other people's acts of kindness, supporting and encouraging their acts of kindness and generosity. That is a noble thing to do in our life. So, I've gone off on a tangent to Seeing's question, but the point I've touched on a bit is to actually see, like the example of the two young people who came and cleaned the toilets, is generosity and acts of kindness is not just kind of being at the front of the line and offering the dāna, but it's who washes the dishes afterwards. I always tell people who come recently, there's a big monastery next to me called Ajahn Chah's monastery. It was his birthday recently. There's about 5,000 people there came to his birthday. And of course, a lot of them came over and visited me. And I said to them that, some women say, oh yes, we came and helped us set up for Ajahn Chah's birthday. And I said, are you staying to clean up? Yes? If you're staying to clean up, then I'll say sadhu, yes? Because, yes, a lot of people help to set up, but, I've noticed it in this monastery, my monastery, and, also, maybe I'll say that even Cittarama, actually Seeing has offered the facilities today for another 5 years, sadhu, but actually he has to rely on all of you, yes, to help. It's not just, he can offer the facilities, but he can't do this himself. He needs your support, your help, to put the mats out, to tidy things up if you see it out of place, to bring the dāna, to help offer the dāna, to help put things away, to help keep the kitchen clean, the bathrooms clean, to look after the guests who come who are new, welcome them, and that's something that we should all be giving towards, and that's what makes Cittarama Cittarama. It's the abiding of the citta. Is everyone here doesn't see this as seeing's place. This is the Dhamma place, and if we see this as a Dhamma place, we can think, what can I give to it, and how can I give so that this place is better, more peaceful, more harmonious, cleaner, neater and tidier than when I first came, after I leave. And when we have that attitude of, that was definitely how Ajahn Chah would instill in us, the training that we received, is we should have this attitude of actually giving to a place, giving to a situation, giving to an environment. And just recently, just to kind of follow up on this, we just did a Buddha pouring for Ajahn Nyanadhammo's monastery in Canada. And Ajahn Moshe invited, at the request of Ajahn Nyanadhammo, many of the senior monks of Wat Pah Pong to come down. And I was speaking to Ajahn Nyanadhammo, and he was saying that he was just so impressed because he came all the way from Canada, and he was only staying for about 10 days, and he came and basically all the monks and all the lay people set it all up. He didn't have to really do anything. It was there because we were all looking at it as not his project, but it was all of our projects. Everyone who was the sponsors, everyone who was the monks, and that's the training of Ajahn Chah's tradition in Wat Pah Pong, is that all the monks, he came there and basically we just did everything. We knew what to do. He'd never done one of these, so we could actually help him out. And he was a bit nervous. He thought he would be the focus of attention, he would be the centre, and he'd have to organise it all. Actually, it was quite the opposite. It was everyone was doing their bit to make this happen, and it was very harmonious, and he was very inspired and very moved by that. And so that shows that how that when we do things together, it creates an energy, it creates a strength, a power, and a sense of community, Buddhist community, which is very important, and we can all add to. So yes, that's I notice not necessarily the people who are coming up to offer the dāna out there. I notice the people who go in and clean the bathrooms and the kitchens and that, and so I'm sure Ajahn Jandi notices as well. Ajahn Samsak, because that's everyone sort of giving a hand, helping. That shows a commitment. It shows a sense of commitment, and sort of putting your heart into things and doing. And everyone has different skills and abilities. And, some people can help in, kind of leading the chanting. Other people can help in other things. We all have strengths and all have our weaknesses. So we look to what we can give and what we can grow from.